Good evening. So, we are continuing from where we left in the morning. We are doing the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, and we will be starting from verse 36 onwards. A small recap of what we did in the morning. Sri Krishna had said to Arjuna that this entire universe, which is run by him in a particular manner, everything is as per the plan. So, whatever that is happening in this universe, human beings have absolutely zero control over what is happening because the death by itself is in nobody's hands except the Divine Lord. When He wills it, death comes. Krishna very clearly said that He is the time, which also translated into He is also the God called time. When we talk of Kal, we also speak about Kali. So, if Kal is him as well as Kali, and he is the one who destroys this whole world and exterminates people, then even the aspect called Shiva, which is called the destroyer, is just a tiny aspect, a very, very tiny aspect of Sri Krishna himself. In this verse 32 onwards, he had clearly said to Arjuna, it is your job to do your duty. Go ahead and kill Bhishma Pitama, Dronacharya, Jayadratha, Karna, because I have already killed them. That means Krishna had already terminated their life. The death was predestined. And even after telling Arjuna that their deaths are predestined, you will find that Arjuna is still not able to grasp the meaning of these words. Though he is going to blabber a lot now, in the coming few verses, Arjuna is going to talk too much about who he is and what he is. But for that matter, this is only chapter 11. Arjuna will show how weak he is. And that is the reason why the whole thing has been extended till chapter 18, 700 verses. In the material world, it is important for human beings to understand that they have a duty to perform. The end result is already predestined. Everything is predestined. Your job is to do your job. But the moment ego comes into play, the moment arrogance comes into play, people say, no, I know what I am supposed to do. Well, that is not what you are supposed to do. Because you are only an instrument in the hands of the divine. So this is where he says that you only be an instrument, Arjuna. Then we had ended at a point where Sanjaya is giving the explanation to Dhritarashtra. And he says, Arjuna was so terrified, absolutely terrified, that he was bowing and praying with his folded hands continuously to Krishna. Because those who can see this immense form will not be able to go ahead in their life because it is such a great form called Virat Swarup. So now let us see where we continue. We are doing Srimad Bhagavad Gita chapter 11, verse 36. Now all these verses are Arjuna's way of telling Krishna what he thinks about Krishna. So Arjuna's observations. Arjuna said, Lord, well it is. The universe exults and is filled with love by chanting your name. Virtues and glory. Terrified Rakshasas are fleeing in all direction, and all the host of Siddhas are bowing to you. These are the observations which Arjuna is making after seeing this Virat Swarup. Now, what did he observe in the Virat Swarup? He saw that the whole universe is really feeling mighty pleased, exulting from looking at the divine form of the Lord. And it is chanting his name continuously. Every soul, every Jivatma that is there, whether it is yours or any other, even the smallest of the creature, their Atma is only talking and taking the name of Sri Krishna himself. That particular being inside of you is actually connected to the divine, to Sri Krishna himself, and is singing the glories and praises of Krishna. Then Arjuna observes that because of this tremendously huge, humongous form of Krishna, which is the Virat Swarup, all the Rakshasas, all the demonical creatures, they are fleeing the fields. They are literally running away and going in every direction. And every Siddha over there, that means all the sages and the saints, they are bowing down to Krishna. So we are doing the next verse now, chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 37. O great soul, why should they not bow to you, who are the progenitor of Brahma himself and the greatest of the great? O infinite Lord of the celestials, O abode of the universe, you are that which is existent, Sat, that which is not existent, Asat, and also that is beyond both, that is the imperishable Brahma. So Arjuna is now saying the next verse where he says, why shouldn't anybody bow down to you? People have this difficulty in the life to bow down to Sri Krishna. Even after knowing who he is, they find it extremely difficult even to bow down and pray. Now this should never be the case. Because at the end of the day, the final person is Sri Krishna himself. So if you are not going to bow down, if you are not even going to show your respect, if you are going to treat him in a derogatory manner, and if you think that he is some ordinary person, which Arjuna is going to say in the next verse, then it is not a good thing. Because Krishna is the ultimate. The creator has been created by Krishna. Do you know this? See, who are the progenitor of Brahma himself and the greatest of the great, progenitor. He is the one who is giving birth to to Brahma. So in this manifest form, when Krishna was creating this entire thing, the creation, the supine form of Narayana was lying on the ocean of milk, covered by his beautiful snake, Adishesh. That is also a part of his form. And from his nabhi, from his navel, comes a stalk which rises in the air and on which there is a lotus. In that lotus, Brahmaji sits. So naturally, Narayana, the form of Krishna, is the father of Brahmaji himself. I hope you understand that. So he is the creator of the creator. So being the ultimate creator of everything, even this material worldly creation which is handled by Brahmaji himself, Krishna is his father, his ultimate destination. So he says, everybody, why should they not bow down to you? Because you are the greatest of all, the greatest of the great. He is the infinite Lord of the celestials, the heavenly beings. He is the abode of the universe. You are that which is existent. Now, existent means is there. Now, here in this case, the word is slightly different. Let me correct that word for you. Sat and Asat. Sat means the truth. Asat means the falsehood. Let us take it from the point of this particular sentence. Krishna is the truth. What is the truth? When we look at the world, the entire thing around us, it appears real to human beings. But that is Asat. That is actually not there. Because it is only a dream of Narayana. Narayana is sleeping and dreaming this whole thing up. So in a dream, what is real and what is unreal? Think about it. In a dream, can you say that what you see in a dream is real? It is actually unreal. But doesn't it appear so much as if you exist and as if everything is happening in front of you? So Arjuna is saying to Krishna that you are the Sat as well as the Asat. So now let us see from his point of view what he is saying. The manifest world is actually Asat, not true. Then what is reality? Reality is only the divine. So Krishna himself is the only reality. Rest everything is unreal. It's slightly a philosophical point of view. So if I see from Krishna's side, naturally what appears on this side, which is the manifest world, is all unreal. On his side, everything is real. Because this whole thing is a chimera, it's a dream. We discussed about it in the morning. So, and he says that which is beyond, the imperishable Brahma. So, if I take the manifest world and I take the unmanifest world, the manifest world which is actually unreal but appears real, and then there is Brahma which is real but is not visible to anybody, it appears unreal to everybody. So this is the human dichotomy which is felt by everybody. And Arjuna, in his innocence, is telling us this. He is saying these words to Krishna himself. So now let us see what he says in the next verse. So we are doing the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, verse 38. You are the primal deity, the most ancient person. You are the ultimate resort of the universe. You are both the knower and the knowable, and the highest abode. It is you who pervades the universe, O infinite one, assuming endless forms. So, the original deity. See, a couple of days ago, some people were discussing about who is a guru. Somebody said there is a Mahaguru, there is a Param Guru, there is an absolute Guru. How many gurus do you want? Some people call themselves Sadguru. Some people say they are the ultimate gurus. In the northern India, most of the people call themselves Sadgurus. If you go Google it up, you will find they will say SAT, whichever name that they feel like. There are hundreds and thousands of these kind of people. So who is the guru? That was the question asked. Well, suppose if I have to take Dattatreya into account, so what will he be called? The Param Guru? Then who is this other person called Adi Guru? So there is an Adi Guru there? Well, to put all these matters to rest, let me tell you this verse where Krishna is the ultimate. You are the primal deity, the number one God. Now tell me, if there is this only one primal deity, do you think there can be any other deities? In the verse prior to this, we had already discussed where Krishna says, I am the Kala also. I am time and I destroy people. I destroy everything. So I am the destroyer as well. So the Swarup called Shiva is a very tiny portion of Krishna himself. So if I take all the gurus together and I combine them and make a big ball of it, Krishna would be sitting on top of all these things. He is the ultimate. Because he is the primal deity. He is the most ancient person. Can there be anybody more ancient than him? There isn't another ancient person. Today people come up with dating. You see, they will say, we are going to date this particular to this era, this age, this time. Some people who are supposed to be scholars, they are scholars because they love to read these books and stuff like that, and then they like to dig very deep inside. They've got big degrees from big universities. So they go deeper inside and then say, oh, this Mahabharata and Ramayana was not written 6,500, it was written now 1,100 years ago. Some people say 1,400 years ago. They say the Upanishads were written only 600 to 400 years ago. Okay, so when was this Bhagavad Gita written? So when the Mahabharata got written, so Bhagavad Gita got written according to all these great friends of ours. So they come up with all their yogis and whatever. So everybody will come up with their own version of God. In the year 1975 or 76, a new God came into the picture. Movie. The goddess was a movie goddess. And she was called by the name Santoshi Mata. I have never heard of this Mata before that particular age, that particular year. But Santoshi Mata was a rage. If she is there today, she would be the super boss of all these influencers in all the channels. It is so funny. People created this goddess out of nothing. And they said, you have to do this puja on a Friday. Because they have to market the movie called Santoshi Mata. The truth is, all this happens later on. You can come up with whomsoever you want, from Brahmaji downwards to Vishnu, to Shiva, to his wives, everybody's wives. You can take Lakshmi, Saraswati, Parvati, Ganesha, Kartik Swami. Everybody comes afterwards. They all follow. But they are only forms. They are only forms which came into existence for a particular purpose only, and not for any other. So they cannot handle the job of Brahmaji and Vishnu and Shiva. No, each has got his own job, and that is the reason why the ultimate guru to ultimate primal deity, to God, to whomsoever you want to call him, is Krishna himself, because Krishna is teaching this Bhagavad Gita. If Krishna is teaching this Bhagavad Gita, naturally he is the final God and the authority over everything. So there is no doubt in all these things. So he is the ultimate resort of the universe. The universe came because of him. So naturally he is the ultimate resort. So there can't be any other gurus and gods and deities and demons and asuras prior to him, no. Common sense will tell you. And if you are a believer of the Bhagavad Gita, which I think whole of India, all the Hindus, they have to put their hand on the Bhagavad Gita and say in the court, I take the oath on Bhagavad Gita. So if you are going to deny this, you are an idiot. So understand this, the primal God is Krishna, the primal everything is him, even the universe has come out of him. He is the knower and the knowable. What do you mean by knower? He knows everything. You can name anything and he knows it. But does he really need to know? It's not important to know. He just is the knower of everything. And what are we supposed to do as human beings? Our job is to know him. We are not supposed to know any other person, because they are all going to disappear. So only knowing Krishna is more than enough, because he is the ultimate God and the highest abode, which Krishna himself has said, I am the highest abode. There can be nothing higher than me. So you can talk of any of those heavens that you wish to. You can call Vaikunt, you can call Brahma Loka, you can call Indra Loka, you can call Kailash, you can say whichever Loka you want to say. All those Lokas come below. The highest abode is only Krishna. It is you who pervades the universe. It is only Krishna who pervades the universe as the divine being. And he assumes endless forms. And by the way, this is one thing which needs to be understood by everybody. He can take any and every form that he wishes to. Why should there be any restriction? If he wants to take a form of Shiva, who can stop Krishna? If he wants to become Brahmaji, who can stop him? Do you think somebody can stop him? Nobody in this universe can stop him, because at the end of the day, he is the final word and nobody else. So let us not argue on this point. And Arjuna is very clearly defining it. So now Arjuna is going to give his own version of whatever the truth that he feels. So we go to the next verse. So we are doing chapter 11 in the Bhagavad Gita, verse 39. You are Vayu, Yama, Agni, Varuna, the moon god, Brahma, nay, the father of Brahma himself. Hail, hail to you 1,000 times. Salutations, repeated salutations to you once again. So naturally, Arjuna is saying, these are the deities which he is talking about are from the Vedas. The Vayu, which is the god of the wind. Yama, the god of death. Agni, the fire god. Varun Dev, the god of water. Moon god, which you know very well. Brahmaji, the lord of the creation. But he is Brahma's father also. So he says, even if I name as many as 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 gods also, you are them as well. So I would rather bow down to you alone. Why do I need to bow down to all these others? If I bow down to you, I have bowed down to all these other gods as well, isn't it? Think about it. Can you bow down to Brahmaji and expect that to reach Vishnu? It's never going to happen. Can I bow down to Shiva and expect my wishes to reach Vishnu or Krishna? No. If I say I pray to Vishnu in a particular form, or I go to Padmanabh Swami temple and I say, Padmanabh Swami temple, please, Padmanabh Swami, I bow down to you. Okay? Do you think Shiva is going to get his bow, whatever praises that he is doing? No. Because he is one God and he is another God. Got the answer? But if I bow down to Krishna, all the other gods are covered inside of him. Because he is every god in this planet, this whole universe, the whole, whatever god you name, that is him alone. It is a small, tiny portion of him. Because he can take any form that he wishes to. The previous closing line, we did that. So he says, salutations, repeated salutations to you once again. So we move to the next verse, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, verse 40. O Lord of infinite prowess, my salutations to you from the front and from behind. O soul of all, my obeisance to you from all sides indeed. You who possess infinite might pervade all, therefore you are all. So he's bowing from the front as well as the back. I don't know how that is done, but you got to imagine it for yourself. So you're bowing here and you're bowing there as well. I can only think of one thing. When you go to the temple, you do a pradakshana right round and you touch every side and you say, oh, I bow down to you, oh, I bow down to you. So imagine something like that. So he's bowing down to every corner of the Divine Lord himself. And he says, you are the soul of all, which is known fact. Because every Atma that is there, whether it is yours or your friends, your relatives, your children, your father, mother, whoever's Atma is there, it is just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of Krishna alone. I bow down my obeisance to you from the sides indeed. So right from the sides also he is going to bow down. We should not forget over here that Arjuna is seeing this immense form of his, which is called the Virat Swarup. Now Krishna's huge form is there in front of him. So where is he going to bow down to him from? Think about it. So there is no way of knowing, isn't it? So he's just saying these words. You who possess infinite might, you have so much of power. Like you have the extreme power and you pervade everything. Everything you are there in. You are all. Of course he is all. Alright. So now we are going to verse 41 and 42. So we are doing Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, verse 41 and 42. The way in which I have importunately called you either through intimacy or thoughtlessly, Hey Krishna, Hey Yadava, O comrade, and so on, unaware of your greatness and thinking you are only a friend. And the way in which you, O Achyuta, the infallible, have been slighted by me in jest, while at play, reposing, sitting, or at meals, either alone or even in the presence of others, for all that, O immeasurable Lord, I crave forgiveness from you. Doesn't that sound a little too much? The way in which this whole thing has been put across. The funny part about life is like this. Krishna is there, and just because he behaves in an ordinary fashion, he just shows himself to some ordinary mortal. Krishna's way of doing this is very peculiar. He is never going to tell anybody that I am so and so, I am the greatest Lord. Why should he? In the first place, Krishna is not even caring whether somebody calls him by some good name or bad name, calls him by whatever. Because at the end of the day, everybody is ignorant. It is all asat. Didn't we discuss that? And naturally, the whole world looks at Krishna as some idiot. This is a fact of life. Not realizing that here you are in front of the divine Lord himself. It is impossible to recognize him. Do you know the reason why he behaves like this? The reason why Krishna behaves like an ordinary person is very peculiar. Think about it. If tomorrow the Queen of England comes and stays in your house, now you may be living as a tenant somewhere. If the Queen of England comes to your house, what happens? Or the Prime Minister of India comes to your house. Forget Prime Minister of India. Let us say Shah Rukh Khan or Amitabh Bachchan or Sachin Tendulkar. He comes to your house. Now imagine that. Shah Rukh Khan is coming to your house. What happens? Isn't he a media personality? Everybody knows Shah Rukh Khan in India. And he is coming to your house. What is going to happen to you? First and foremost, how will you welcome him? Isn't it strange? Even a very small person comes to your house. How do you feel? Your own principal of the college or your school may turn up to your house. Imagine the local MLA comes, the MP comes. Here is the main issue. The problem starts there. Everybody wants to know, what is your relationship with him? Can you get my job done? Can I get one small glimpse of him? Can I come and take a selfie with him? As if Shah Rukh Khan's selfie is so important. Can I get an autograph, please, Sachin ji? I need your autograph, Sachin Tendulkar. And you want his autograph. You want to take a picture with him. So for ordinary mortals, these are absolutely crass human beings. Okay? And for these crass human beings, you have so much of dhamal, so much of nonsense going on. Imagine, tomorrow if the world knows who is Krishna, and Krishna comes to your house. People will want to know, why is he coming over there? Can I just take his darshan? Can I touch his feet? Can I do this? Can I do that? All these, just now only I was telling you, everybody who calls themselves gurus, Guru, I guru. Some big fancy name they give to themselves. If they come to your house, Guruji aa gaye, Guruji aa gaye. What Guruji aa gaye? That guy is lesser than a human mortal. He's a worm. And yet people think he is somebody great. Because he is a media star. Media star. He's there in Instagram, in Facebook, in Twitter, in the news channel, all the TVs, everywhere. We are very, very famous people. Those guys can't even come to your house. Why? Because they are too famous. Now understand why Krishna is always incognito. He is never going to tell anybody that he is Krishna in the first place. Why would he want stupid publicity for himself? He is the ultimate, okay? Why does the ultimate want to go and tom to the world, I am the ultimate, I am the ultimate, I am the ultimate? He is not even going to say. He doesn't even want to be Jesus Christ. He doesn't even want to be Buddha. He would not. Why would he want to become Buddha or Jesus Christ also? People will follow him, flock with him. They will all want to keep on going around with him. Now I hope you understand, some little common sense would have gone in your head. Krishna never divulges his identity to anybody. It is always a secret. And as you know, he pervades everything and he comes every time. But he never tells anybody. And that is the reason why Arjuna is saying, oh, sorry, boss. He's continuously saying sorry. Why? Sorry. I mean, just imagine him to be some foreigner. Sorry, Krishna. What sorry, Krishna? The way in which I called you like this, hey Krishna, hi, oh Krishna, how are you? That is what everybody does. They look at Krishna and they go, hey dude, how are you, Krishna? How are things with you? How are all the gopis? This kind of stupidity goes on in the world. So even Arjuna is doing the same stupid mistake which the whole world makes. Krishna never divulges his identity to anybody. You see, he has said, okay, he has said it very clearly. To his own mother, one day he just opened his mouth and showed the whole universe in his mouth. And then he quickly hid that thing. Likewise, he lifted that Govardhan mountain on his fingertips. Doesn't matter. And nobody knew about it. Just imagine, think like that. How would you treat him if he lifted an entire mountain on his fingertip, in the little small finger? How would you treat Krishna? Any of these prime ministers, presidents and all these, how do they stand in front of him? But you see, Krishna has this very peculiar habit. He covers everything up by means of his Maya. He puts a hex on the whole system and he says, don't even bother who I am. I don't need your stupid praises. I don't need it even for you to tell me who I am. I already know who I am. So, Arjuna says, hey Krishna, hey Yadava, oh comrade. Must be a Russian or Chinese or something like that. Hey comrade, how are you? And so on. Unaware of your greatness. I'm not even aware of your greatness. Just now when you told me a little bit about it, by the way, by the time this chapter is over, he would have forgotten everything that he said. Krishna gives one little pill, bhool ki goli they call it. Bhool ki goli means it is given in the form of Maya. Maya will cover the whole face of Arjuna. What happened just now? Nothing happened. You got the point? Nothing happened. What to do? So, he says, for this particular point, after seeing that immense, huge form, what does he say? Oh, I'm unaware of the greatness of yours. And I always thought you are my friend, I thought you are my great friend. And I treated you like a friend also. I said, hi dude, how are you? Oh, comrade, let us go for a movie. This is the way in which people treat Krishna. I mean, if you were there today, how do you think he will be treated? Exactly like this only, isn't it? Do you think Krishna himself is going to tell the world who is he? He will behave like a pakka ordinary person, then lesser than an ordinary. He'll say, I don't have anything, I am a poor man, I don't know what I am doing. This I am dependent on all of y'all. He's going to say like that. See, I don't have money, I don't have power, I don't have clothes, I don't have anything. This is the way in which he will treat the whole world. And everybody gets conned by what he says. So, oh Achyuta, the infallible, have been slighted by me in jest. I have always made fun of you, like a laughter therapy. They say, oh no, oh no, oh no, no, like that. Krishna, oh no, like that. How funny is that? You people have thought of him as some comedy character. So they have always made jest fun of him. While at play, reposing, sitting at the meals. Even when people are sitting at the meals, they don't have any respect for him. They look at him as some ordinary fellow. Look at him, look at the way he's eating. Doesn't even know how to eat. So, and when he is resting, reposing, taking rest, that time also, hey, come on, move aside, man, I want to sleep next to you. Arjuna has said this to Krishna so many times. They poke fun at him and they poke him also. Either alone or in presence of others. Now, this presence of others is a very, very common thing. In presence of others, even the dearest of Arjuna will never acknowledge Krishna. He never acknowledges Krishna as the Almighty God. He will say, hey, it's Krishna over here, huh? He's a friend of mine. Hey, hello, hi, how are you? And he is going to behave like that. So, for all that, O immeasurable Lord, I crave forgiveness from you. Krishna has a very funny way. When you say, I'm very sorry, Krishna, you know what he says? It's all right, it's okay, no problem, it's all right, let it be. Cool it, man. But don't go on the way he may talk to you. Don't even go by the way he looks. Don't fall for any of these things. Always have this one thing in mind, that when you are in presence of Krishna, always have that respect. Know who he is. Treat him like the master of the universe, the ultimate deity, the God of gods. He is the final. There is nobody, greater than him. Imagine Krishna would visit temples. He would visit everybody. He visited even Hanumanji. Okay? And he bowed down to him. He would visit even the smallest of the person to the highest of the person in the land, and he will be very, very humble. And Krishna bows down to everybody. Think about it. If he bows down to somebody, doesn't the other person think that he is greater than Krishna? It's called Maya. He doesn't allow those people to even have that inkling who he is. They may be sages, they may be saints, they may be gods themselves. He foxed even Brahmaji. You think Shiva was not taken in by him? I mean, think about it. When I am saying these words, don't you know the story of Brahmaji, who was completely deluded by his presence? He didn't know that was Krishna, and he thought he is going to kidnap everything. And then Krishna appears like Mohini also. He appears like a woman. And Shivji runs after him. Imagine that. Shivji also cannot recognize him. Nobody in this universe can recognize him. Even the gods are foxed by it. They don't even know. Because he plays around. So you think ordinary people will know him? Nobody knows him. He will go to the temple also. He will go and meet everybody, and there he is going to, how are you, sir? Fine, sir. Thank you. Today's day and age, he will say, how are you? Okay, fine. His way of talking will be like this. Don't you fall for it. Be very careful the way he behaves. Okay? Don't get foxed by it. Don't get conned by the way he behaves. Very peculiar. And Krishna has this very funny habit of, cheating all these things. Treating everybody like that. You won't even know. And then suddenly he is going to do something and you will say, oh, but Krishna did something wrong, You think he can do wrong? He is never going to do anything wrong. Okay, so we go to the next verse. So we are doing Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, verse 43. Previous verse, Arjuna is now literally pani ho gaya, like they say in Hindi. Pani means the fellow is literally, scared. He's literally shivering. And finally he says, I'm sorry, pardon me. Like that. So now in this verse, what does he say? So Bhagavad Gita chapter 11 verse 43. You are the father of this moving and the unmoving creation. Nay, the greatest teacher worthy of adoration. O Lord of the incomparable might, in all the three worlds, there is none else ever equal to you. You. How then can anyone be greater than you? This is exactly what I said 2 verses ago. He is the father of the moving and the non-moving. The sentient and the insentient. That which moves, that which has a life, and that which doesn't have a life. He is the father of everything. He is the greatest teacher, worthy of adoration. I was just now talking to you about gurus. Who can be greater guru than Krishna himself? Can there be any greater guru, any great teacher than Krishna? There is none whatsoever. Krishna takes the form of the Tatray. Krishna takes the form of Shiva. Krishna takes the form of all these Adi Gurus and whatever Guru that you want to call. He can take whichever form he wants. But he is the ultimate teacher. There can be no other greater teacher than Krishna himself. And please understand, these are the words of the Bhagavad Gita. These are not ordinary words. Okay? So, he is the greatest teacher worthy of adoration. Bowing down to him is so important. He is the Lord of incomparable might. Don't look and fall for his looks. You know, the way he will look, the way he seems. Looks like a tiny fellow with one thing sticking in his head. What? The peacock feather is there, and he is always singing and dancing and all that. Kaustubh jewel, he looks like a jolly good fellow, and most of the time he's running around all the place, everywhere. He may stand near a cow. Have you seen a fierce form of Krishna by any chance? Except for this one particular place where you have seen a little fierce form, which is called the Virat Swarup. And by the way, you have not seen. Arjuna has seen and Sanjaya is talking. But you have not seen the Virat Swarup of Krishna, isn't it? So you have never seen his deadly forms. Yeah, the deadly form which I told in the morning was of Narsimha. Narsimha's form is attributed to Vishnu. Please understand one thing. Anything happening in this world, Krishna says, I didn't do. I am not responsible. Who is responsible? Maya is responsible. Go to Vishnu, go to Brahmaji, go to Shiva. They are responsible. Why? Because all that is unreal, isn't it? It is asat. And that is the reason why he says those words. He is having the incomparable might in all the three worlds. There is none equal to you. There isn't a single God, human being, soldier, you name it. Nobody is equal to him. Not a single person. Not a single God, not even the devil, the demons or Rakshasas or whosoever. How can anybody be equal to Krishna? Nobody can be equal to him. Everybody is below. Everybody is subordinate to him. How can anyone be greater than you? So nobody is greater than him. So we go to the next one. Bhagavad Gita chapter 11 verse 44. Therefore, Lord, prostrating my body at your feet and bowing low, I seek to propitiate you, the ruler and the worthy of all praises. It behoves you to bear with me, even as a father bears with his son, a friend with his friend, and a husband with a beloved spouse. This guy is literally using all the Amul butter possible in this world. He just wants to, oh Krishna, I want to bow down to you. You know, you are the father, no? Please forgive me. You are like my father. You are like, how husband and wife are there. Anyway, whatever happens, please take care of me. I am your friend also. Please take care of me. Prostrating my body at your feet. And bowing low, I seek to propitiate you. Basically, he's saying, oh, I just want to be in your good books. Help me, I want to be only in your good books. I don't want to be in your bad books at all. It's a good thing you are there with me, see? Otherwise, that poor fellow, that Duryodhan, if he would have taken you, I would have been defeated by now. This guy literally panders. Arjuna is pandering to Krishna and telling him, see, you are there, no? You please take care of me. I am happy that you are there for me. So, it behoves you to bear with me even as a father bears with the son. This is something which I have always wondered. When you are in the corner, you are going to come up with all kinds of expressions, It behoves of you to please take care of me. I am like your son, Till just now you are not my son. Till just now you are thinking you are some great almighty God. I am the greatest Arjuna in this world. Everybody has this idea. I am the greatest, I am the greatest, I am the greatest. And then now you are bowing down because I showed one little tiny form to you. Like that. That's funny, isn't it? Why does a person need to get this proof? That Krishna is the almighty God. Krishna is the ultimate. If Krishna is the ultimate, why is it necessary for any human being to want a proof of the pudding? It is not important. Really, it is not important to ask Krishna who he is, what does he do, how does he behave like this. Why? Why is it necessary? Why don't you take that word for granted? This is it. But then you don't have to say these words, to it. It behoves of you to be the father of mine. Come on. He is the father of everybody, including Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. He is the father to every god in this world. He is the father to everybody. Now because you want all your pardons, that is why you are calling him father. Isn't it very funny? So, bear with me as a father. A friend to his friend. You are my friend also, no? What friend? After you call him names, after you say whatever that comes to your mind, and then you think that he is a friend of yours, doesn't that become very stupid on your part? He's cheating. Now you are my friend. Till that time, he is not my friend. But now he is the friend. And a husband with his beloved spouse. Yeah. What is the need for anybody to understand this? All these magical kind of propensities. You don't have to see a Virat Swarup to praise the Lord. Bow down to him. Be in his good books. Always be devoted to him. Be nice and kind and compassionate and loving. Listen to the words. He says certain words very innocuously. It doesn't even appear that as if he's saying something. Okay, do this. And when he says do this, don't think he's telling you to do this. Just like that, do this. No. Do it. Don't question. Don't even say anything. You got the point. Because he's the super boss of the universe, okay? And if he says certain words, you just go ahead and do it. Always bow down. Have that humility in you. So, then you don't have to lagav this maska. Maska means a butter. And say to Krishna, oh Krishna, you are the greatest. You don't have to say that. He is the greatest. He is the ultimate. He is the highest guru. He is the highest of everything. There can be no God greater than him. Know this for sure, and this is the ultimate thing. And always be very, very devoted and have single-pointed devotion and, unconditional love for him. That is all. So we will stop over here. And we will come again tomorrow from verse 45 onwards, because Arjuna is still not stopped, by the way. Okay? We still have to listen to that, that crying fellow. Huh? Because now he is getting a taste of the medicine. So he is going to cry more. So let us listen to the crying tomorrow. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. Tomorrow morning we are going to have the Guru Charitra Satsang. Today the Satsang was cancelled due to certain problems. Today also the light is having an issue over here. So tomorrow morning there will be the Guru Charitra, and tomorrow evening this will be the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll see you all. Take care. Bye.